What's going on, world? And welcome back to the Pursuit of the Good Life podcast, your favorite podcast that helps you grow both personally and professionally. I'm your host with the most, your favorite coach, the Cameron Lovelace, helping you create your version of the good life every single Thursday. And today we have a very special guest. So y'all know what we're doing right now is our Dreams and Nightmares series, where I'm bringing on people who have found success in their particular field. And of course, I had to bring somebody in the medical profession because a lot of people want to be maybe nurses, maybe doctors. How do you know the difference? So I had to bring on the show one of Jonesboro's finest. I've known this person for a little over a decade now. I've known her before when we were both in high school, and when we both went to University of Central Arkansas, and then we both went our separate paths. And she went on to become a nurse practitioner. She's a wife first, mother of two, and a friend of mine. Please welcome to the show, Miss Chelsea Von Schmidt.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing? What's going on with you?
Doing well.
Good. All right. So before we jump into the interview, I like to always have a little fun with my guests by this, like some sort of opening question. And so, based on your career, what TV show reflects how your career has been? So, of course, I don't know if Grey's Anatomy, I don't know if your career is so dramatic as Grey's Anatomy or Good Doctor or anything like that. But what show kind of, in your opinion, has reflected some of your career?
That is a very good question. I would say Grey's Anatomy is a little bit more dramatic than my career, for sure. And also because I was so obsessed with that show for so long, I don't really watch medical shows anymore.
Really?
Really, I do not. It got a little bit crazy for me. But, this is an oldie but a goodie. Okay. And I have to say Scrubs because it's funny as far as, the hospital part, because you have fun at work, but you can also be professional and you really help people in the meantime.
So Scrubs. Okay, oldie but goodie. Okay, cool. What medical show is your favorite? I know you said, well, you don't really watch it, but what show is your favorite right now?
It's probably still Grey's. I do check in every now and again. But all the new ones, I've never even watched The Good Doctor or, Chicago Med or any of those other ones.
You should watch The Good Doctor.
I know. The commercials look good.
You got Hulu?
I do.
You should watch it. It's a pretty good show. I was kind of skeptical at first. I was like, what's this about? And then I watched it and I was like, before I knew it, I was on season 2, and then 3 is on, and I'm just like, okay, well, it's one of those ABC usually does pretty good.
Yeah.
Shows like that. But yes, Good Doctor, highly recommend.
Okay, I'll squeeze that in there somewhere.
Have some tissues ready though. You know how ABC do.
Yep.
But let's jump into it. Tell the audience a little bit about your journey to becoming a nurse. Well, no. Sorry, let's back up. Why did you want to become a nurse?
So I was in and out, not as a patient, but in and out of hospitals a lot in high school because my grandparents were so sick. They had a lot of cardiovascular issues and diabetes, and they were smokers, and they lived in a rural part of Kentucky. And so my mom is their only daughter, and so she was always there whenever they were sick. And so I was able to see that side of medicine a lot, and the nurses are the ones that talk to the family. Mm-hmm. So that was just always, ever present in my life growing up. And so I thought, and I liked math and science, and I thought for a while I wanted to be a teacher. But I really liked math and science, and I didn't like teaching so much. I don't know if I have the patience for that. So I said, let me go this route, and that's kind of how it all happened.
Well, this is before or after our job that we had in high school working with the kids that you realized
probably after, or maybe during, because I think I was a junior or senior with that job. So I think that kind of developed there.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what was it? How did the journey happen? Because, and so like take us behind the curtain a little bit as far as like the process. Because correct me if I'm wrong, you took the ACT quite a few times to get the
I
score.
did like 9 times. And it wasn't necessarily because I wasn't doing well. I was doing well. I just wanted a certain scholarship. I wanted to go to a certain university.
Right.
And at that time, it really wasn't about the nursing program because most major universities in Arkansas have fine nursing programs. So it wasn't really about that, but it was more about um, not having to take out a loan, not having, my parents have to pay a lot of money. So just, the difference at UCA at that time, the difference between the 26 and the 27 was like double the scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I had taken it several times, but I ended up applying to the honors college at UCA, which at the time was a full ride scholarship based on your GPA and an interview and your ACT score. And it was just more of a well-rounded option for me. I felt like I was more than just whatever that ACT number said.
Right.
They actually met me and I got to talk about some literature, and I had to submit 2 pieces of writing. And so it was just more of being accepted to that was like, okay, they really understand that like I'm going to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get a scholarship, and I had pretty well decided on nursing my freshman year prior to starting college. But then being in those prerequisite courses kind of just solidified that for me because I enjoyed learning in those classes. And so you have to complete certain courses in the freshman year, and you can use your sophomore year for that as well. But you apply, most people apply, the beginning of their sophomore year after those prereq courses are complete. And so I did that and I got in.
Now let's pause for a second, because what you are describing, I don't know if people are following this, and those people that don't know University of Central Arkansas like we do, to be in the honors program, you got to take some extra courses or a specific course curriculum.
Right.
That can be a little more difficult if you are not in said honors program. You're saying, what you're describing is that you did that and then did the nursing program as well, which is not light at all.
Right. When I was in it, I was just like, oh, I just have to do this. This is what I have to do for this. And here's what I have to do for this. But looking back on it, yeah, that's quite a lot of work. Because my brother, he graduated last December from the University of Memphis, and he didn't have to take very many summer courses. And I'm like, why didn't he? I always had to take a summer class, but that's why. Because it's not at UCA, it isn't like honors math, honors science. It's like, no, this is your honors course. We're going to read literature, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to do all the things. And it's extra on top of your major because you do actually get a minor through the honors program. So
correct. Is the honors program was your minor the honors program, or did you actually select a minor?
You're not able to select a minor, but they give you a minor in interdisciplinary studies.
That sounds so fun.
It was wonderful. And they do because of just the way the classes are structured, you don't necessarily have to take some gen ed courses. So it's not completely extra. Like I didn't have to take sociology, but there was certainly a lot of that discussed in the honors program.
Gotcha. Okay, so walk us through what it was like going through the nursing program for those high schoolers, people that are in college listening to this. Describe what it was like managing that course load, because you played as a sorority too, and you were involved. Like you were doing a lot.
I was doing a lot. Probably sets me up for my current day life, so that was good.
Right.
But I waited until my junior year to pledge my sorority, though.
Okay.
So I had already been in the nursing program for a year. So your freshman year, you take the prerequisite courses, and that's things maybe that you didn't do in high school, like college algebra, and then things you can only get in college, like nutrition, statistics, things like that.
Right.
And then you apply and you get in, and the course load, I didn't really know any better, I guess, because I was taking the same amount of hours as I was my freshman year. But a lot of it is didactic initially. You're just, reading, learning about body systems and various health, various diseases and things like that. The first semester, you're just going to the nursing home and you're learning basic things, how to make a bed, how to do vital signs, how to assess someone's pain level, how to do wound care, how to feed someone. All of those just very basic nursing tasks that people take for granted. You actually have a course that teaches you to do that. And then as the years go on, maybe in the second year, it gets a little bit more hands-on. You're actually in the hospital, you're actually administering medications. The checkoffs become a little bit more rigorous. Checkoffs meaning you stand in front of a professor and you have to care for a patient in front of them while they watch you and grade you on that. And then your last semester is a lot of just things that make a nursing degree a bachelor's degree. So research and leadership and ethics and things like that.
Right. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard, I think from somebody who went through the program that like there's a certain standard that you have to get each test because you're essentially playing with somebody's life on each test. And so if you get a below a certain, I want to say it was maybe a B. I don't know. Like you told specifically, if you get lower than a B, you failed the entire exam. So no C's, no D's, like you have failed.
Well, unless they've changed it, you didn't necessarily fail, but you couldn't make a C very often or you're not going to pass the class because you do have to have a B in the course to pass. And when I was there, anytime you made a C on an exam, you had to go meet with the course director and talk about the questions you missed and why you missed them and maybe why you didn't do as well on that exam.
Yeah, so that kind of implies that there's no playing around, like when you're in
right. And it's also because the universities want to keep their pass rates on the NCLEX, which is your clinical boards, high. So if they're just letting people take it with super low GPAs, they know they're not going to do very well.
Makes sense. Okay. So that was a lot of college life. No, we'll dive into that later. I have a question about Logan. But we'll circle back to that later. So once you graduated UCA, what was like that in between process before you decided, or did you decide in UCA, hey, I want to keep going with nurse practitioner?
I did decide that. Actually, my senior year, I had applied to University of Tennessee Health Science Center to get a doctorate of nursing practice. So that's a practicing doctorate. It's 3 years full time. And you get to be an NP without ever being a nurse practitioner. They have a BSN to DNP program, and I was accepted to that. But my husband had been accepted to, well, he was accepted to several places to go to dental school, but the most financially friendly for us was to move to Dallas. And so I was not able to, we saved some hundreds of thousands of dollars by moving to Dallas instead of staying in Memphis because he got accepted to UTHSC also. But with both of us going there, that just was not a good loan move. So because I had to move to Dallas, I was not able to do my degree there at UT in Tennessee. So I just worked as a nurse. And I knew that was always in the game plan, but I had to be familiar with the schools there and what their requirements were and things like that. So I put that on hold for a year and applied and eventually got my master's in Dallas.
Right. Okay. So for those of y'all listening, make sure that you marry somebody willing to hold it down while you're in school.
Yeah.
Then when it's your turn, they're able to support you.
Absolutely. That was really good planning on our part because I was able to work. I mean, if we had stayed here in Memphis, not only was that a poor long-term financial decision based on the massive loans we would have accumulated, but neither one of us would have been able to work because both of us would have been in a full-time program. So it just wouldn't have made any sense to stay here. So I got a job in the ICU in Dallas.
How was that? How's that at?
So I worked in the neurosurgical ICU. So these people, it's not trauma. So the hospital I worked at is right next door to Parkland, which is where JFK went when he was shot. It's a big trauma hospital, right? So our hospital, because they're affiliated, doesn't do traumas like falls, spinal cord injuries, things like that. So it was just primarily people who had had strokes or, they just had something freak happen. They're not necessarily sick otherwise. So it wasn't that bad, to be honest with you, because in a lot of ICUs, like medical ICUs or surgical ICUs, the patients were a lot sicker. But not to say they're not critically ill. My patients were. It was just very much in their brain.
Right.
So it was stressful. I worked night shifts, so that was not my favorite. I'm very much a morning person and like to get up and get stuff done, and having to flip my entire schedule around half the week was not my favorite thing. But I stayed there a full year and made great friends and learned a lot. So that was good.
Okay, cool beans.
I'm just glad I'm not there now.
Yeah, because right now it'd be a different, completely different atmosphere.
Right.
So like those night shifts, because I've heard like some nurses say, "Oh yeah, I just pulled the 12-hour shift." Like, so that you were doing that regularly? Was that like 4 days a week, 5 days? What was that like?
So most nurses work 3 12-hour shifts a week. So when you're on nights, you want those to be right back to back because you don't want to, it's difficult if you put a day in between, because then you don't know when to sleep, or, you're basically, your schedule's flipped around for an extra day. So if you just work, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is what I did often, then you work, you sleep, you work, you sleep, you work, you sleep, and then you're off for the next 4 days until you have to do it again. So a lot of times if the on 3 off 4 didn't quite work, sometimes it would be, you work 3 this week and you get 2 off, and then you work another 3. I would just work straight through because it wasn't worth it to me to flip my schedule back around.
Right.
So it was just, trying to overcome the mental hurdle of being awake when nobody else is.
Right.
But the work itself in the hospital was much more manageable.
At night?
At night.
Why is that?
Well, and it may just be in part because it was neurosurgery. All of the doctors are asleep. They're not ordering things for you to do in the middle of the night. All the meds have been scheduled all day long. You're not taking anybody to the CAT scan. You're not taking anybody to MRI. Typically, there's not a lot of crazy emergencies happening because there aren't procedures happening. So that's why. It's just more chill.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were in that for how many years? Or for
I was in the ICU for a year.
Okay.
And that's when I started school. So I had to get out.
So then you stopped working, or you worked and went to school?
No, I worked and went to school. I just had to find a job that was not all night long. So there were openings on day shift when I left, but just the stress of being in the ICU with the added pressure of it being during the day, I just didn't feel like I could do that with my schoolwork. So I transitioned to pre-op and PACU. So that is before and after surgery. So some days I'd get people ready for surgery all day long. Some days I would just wake them up after, make them comfortable, get them back home or to their rooms. And then some days I did both.
Okay.
And that was much more manageable.
I believe it. And you don't have to stay up all night. So,
right.
Yeah, I got it. So tell me about the transition from a nurse to a nurse practitioner. First of all, what's the difference between the two?
Okay, so a nurse is a bachelor's degree prepared nurse, but you can also be an RN without a bachelor's degree. There are certification programs where you just go through an RN program and you can be an RN. And so those are bedside nurses, and the scope of practice is just the number one difference between them. Nurses are following the orders of a provider, and a nurse practitioner is a provider.
Okay.
So nurse practitioners can actually make the orders themselves.
Okay. So like in terms of like interaction with the doctor, what does that look like as far as like the power? I don't want to say power dynamic, but as far as like the pecking order in the actual work setting.
Right. So as an RN, you are given orders by the doctor. Very rarely would you ever need to question those or even be in a spot to question them. You just kind of do them. You can suggest certain things. In the hospital and the ICU I worked at, they would have rounds, and the nurses were involved in those rounds, and you can make suggestions or let the doctor in on some things they may not know about their patient because they're not with them all day long like a nurse is. RNs are typically with their patients, 12 hours. So they're able to give some insight to the providers that they don't necessarily know. Yeah. But they are just primarily carrying out the orders of the doctor and then just tending to the basic needs of the patient, making sure that they're comfortable, that they're fed, that they're clean, and that the family's informed, all of those things. Very important. Okay. Nurse practitioners are more on an equal level with doctors. Medical doctors don't give us orders. We have our own patients. And typically their practice is very much separate from ours. So when I was practicing in primary care, my doctor had patients that he saw, and I had patients that I saw. And sometimes those flip and flop, and that's fine. It's just whoever has room on their schedule. But it's more of a collaborative relationship with a doctor, a physician, an MD, and a nurse practitioner.
Okay. And so go ahead.
Nurse practitioners, at least in the state of Tennessee and most states, have to have a supervising physician. So that relationship basically just says that they're going to review my charting, make sure it looks good to them. They're there for resource, for questions, for help. And in my case, especially that first year out of school, just, as an example, is just someone to go to and ask questions and learn from, a mentor. So, all nurse practitioners, at least in the state of Tennessee and a lot of other states, have to have a supervising physician.
Okay. So tell us about your transition from Texas to Tennessee. Like were you still working in the hospital when you graduated with your MS in Texas?
Yes. So I stayed in pre-op and PACU until I graduated. So I graduated in May of 2017, and the very first week of May 2017 was my last week of work as a nurse. So when that happens, when you graduate, you have your master's, but you still can't practice because you have to take boards, just like an RN. RNs get their bachelor's degree, but then you have to take the NCLEX to be able to practice. So
you had the NCLEX twice?
So you take the NCLEX as a nurse, as an RN,
right?
And then you have to take your certification boards as a nurse practitioner, it's a board exam. It's just called something different. Gotcha. So I graduated in May of 17, and then we moved back in with my parents.
Oh no!
Because we weren't working. We weren't working yet, so we couldn't just go off and buy a house in Memphis. We wouldn't have known where to do that anyway. We had no idea where we wanted to live. We just knew it needed to be around the Memphis metro area. So for June, July, and August, we stayed with my parents and looked for jobs, got jobs, and got a house in those 3 months. Okay. So my job was actually in Jackson, Tennessee, where my parents live.
Okay.
So that wasn't difficult for me, but my husband was commuting back to Memphis. And his mom only lives 45 minutes from Memphis. So sometimes he'd stay with his mom. Sometimes he'd stay, with my parents. But he was commuting almost an hour a day to work in Memphis. So I moved in with my parents in June and took my boards, passed my boards. And then you have to apply for a license in the state of Tennessee. Okay. So I had to wait for that to come in. But in the meantime, I did get a job in August at Faith Health Center. It's a clinic for uninsured patients in Jackson. And I worked there for a little over a year. It's now a cross community health center in Jackson. They've become a little satellite clinic of them. But that was a great little starting point for me.
What's up, guys? We all know that in order to create your version of the good life, you have to have a fulfilling career. And that's why today's episode is sponsored by the Dreams and Nightmares Career Exploration Program. It's that awesome program that helps your student build a foundation based on their strengths and even weaknesses, explore the world of work, and create a step-by-step plan to turn their dreams into a reality. Now, It includes an e-course, it includes an assessment, it even includes a 90-day coaching program and a group experience for those mentoring groups in nonprofit organizations. It is the awesome career program designed by yours truly to help your student, whether you're in college or whether you're in high school, really know how to turn your dream career into a reality and to avoid those deep, dark nightmares. Now, for those of you that are adults and are not students anymore, don't worry, I didn't leave you out either. Today's episode is also sponsored by the Welcome to the Jungle program. The Welcome to the Jungle program is the program designed to help you grow both personally and professionally by helping you master yourself. We do this by helping you master the 4 dominant animal personality traits that everybody has, which includes the dominant lion, the inspirational flamingo, the supportive chameleon, and the very cautious turtle. Conquering these animals is the key to not only dominating in your professional life, but also knowing how to thrive in your everyday jungle with your family and your relationships. So be sure to check out these 2 programs at www.goodlifetc.org/dreams and /W2J. And now back to the show.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little bit behind the curtain about like the process, because we can talk about what it takes to okay, yeah, you gotta work, you gotta pass your boards, you gotta do that, but life happens in between, like on the journey. You got married fresh out of college. I mean, obviously you've been, well, not obviously, just a little background. You've been dating Logan for a while. You got married right out of college. Then you went to work. He went to school. I don't know when these kids popped up in that process, during school, after school. Like, so walk us back.
That was crazy.
So like walk us through like that process of creating that side, or juggling that side while pursuing the nursing process.
Well, that's still a balancing act, and I think it will remain that way as long as the kids are little. But he, was in his 2nd year of dental school, almost the 3rd, when we found out. He was in the 2nd semester of his 2nd year of dental school when we found out that we were expecting Lane. That was I found out in March of 2015. He was born in November. And so basically when I found out in March, I mean, I didn't wait for a doctor's appointment. I didn't wait for anything. I immediately notified my school because I didn't know what to do. I was supposed to start clinical that fall. So in August, I think I was supposed to start clinical. I don't know. I had some coursework lined up that I had to actually go. And so with his due date being in November, I knew that I would still have courses.
So you were about to start school, your master's.
I was already in school.
Oh, you were in the middle. Okay.
I was in the middle of it. Yeah, I was in that first year still. So I started in August of 13 or 14? 14, August of 14. And then March of 15 is when I found out I was pregnant. So I contacted my school because I was supposed to have some in-person classes. And at the school I went to, Texas Women's University in Dallas, they have a certain amount of online courses, and I just didn't know what that looked like. So I talked to my advisor about having an all online semester for that upcoming fall when he was due. And so that was able to work out, thank goodness. And I did have to take like an extra summer course, but other than that, it really never affected my schooling because I was proactive and rearranged it to where it was going to work for me. And then, but schools also always have workarounds like that because they know that life happens. And so they have, at least at TWU, they had a set plan that everyone kind of follows, but it's lenient. So they set you up with 2 classes every semester, but if you need to just do 1 this semester, that's fine. Or if you just don't want to do any this semester and then put it off until this one, then that's fine. But that's what the advisor is there for, to kind of guide you through all that.
That sounds like a great situation. I know definitely not every program does that.
Right. Not every program, for sure. Because some courses are only offered in certain times.
Exactly.
So, yeah, lucky for me, I was still in that first year, and pretty much they're teaching every class every semester. So that was that worked out for me.
Okay. So walk us through what it was like being a first-time mom in the middle of school.
I actually have a picture with my newborn held in my lap, and I have a textbook on my lap. I mean, it was almost literally a balancing act. It
Mhm.
was, I didn't really know what to expect out of being a mom. I mean, I knew it was going to be busy, but I just didn't really let that give me a lot of stress and anxiety. I was just like, we're going to figure this out one way or another.
Mhm.
I know what I have to get done, basically.
Right.
And so I just wasn't incredibly stressed out about it. Tried not to be. Um, but he was born in November,
Mhm.
early November, and then my coursework was done by the beginning of December, and I got a little break. So
Right.
that was good. And then when my coursework started the following year, he was in daycare, and so that worked out that he was taken care of while I was doing other things. I had to rearrange my work schedule so that I was working.
Again.
Yeah, I was working on the days I wasn't in class.
Mhm.
Um, and let's see. And then when I started clinical, that's when I had to go part-time with my job. It was just that last year of school for me. I would pick up on-call shifts as I could to try to keep my salary what it was, and
Mhm.
then just get some clinical hours where I could, because you have to get a certain amount every semester. So it's kind of hard to fit that in with a full-time job.
Yeah. And at
Yeah.
this point, had Logan finished dental school, or he was still in
So
dental school?
he was still in dental school. We
How long
graduated
is dental school?
4 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So mine was only 2.
Right.
Mine was only 2, and his was 4. So the entire time we were in Dallas, he was a dental student, and we graduated the same month.
Oh, look at y'all.
Yeah, I know.
Just y'all.
That's why when I was applying to schools, I was like, I have to get in this time. If I don't get in right this semester, I can't do it because I'll be here longer than he will, or who knows. But so I got in at the right time to where we would both be done at the same time.
And so what were you, did you have to take a GRE? What did you have to do for that process?
Ugh, I did have to take the GRE, and I didn't know that I had to take the GRE. So words to the wise for your audience are
Yeah.
read the prerequisites, because I was under the impression I didn't have to take that. And I
Mm.
don't know where I got that impression,
Mhm.
but one of my friends that I was working in the ICU with as we were applying, we were both on nights, and she was going to apply as well. And she figured out, like, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline, that we actually had to take that exam. So I signed up for it as soon as I could, and it happened to be on a day that I worked the night before.
Oh no.
So I went to work 7 to 7, got off at 7 in the morning, went to sleep for 2 hours. I had my GRE at 10, and I didn't get done for a while. And then I went back home and slept for another hour and went back to work.
Oh my goodness. So
I
that
should
was,
have just taken off, but I didn't know any better.
you were glutton for punishment. So
Yeah.
so you wait. So am I understanding correctly that you found out 2 weeks before and was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna just
I
wing it.
just have to do this.
Did you,
Yeah.
did
And
you
I
wing
was just praying that it got in on time, and it did.
Wow. So did you wing it? Did you study or?
Oh no, absolutely no studying was happening,
Oh,
because but that was not a good choice. Everybody needs to study for the GRE, but I had heard this particular university, they look at your college GPA first,
more than.
um, before they look at your GRE. It's like they kind of require it because they have to. I don't think they find it super important. So
Gotcha.
I wasn't too worried about it.
Okay. Yeah, and I love master's graduate programs that look at the whole picture, because there
Yeah.
are, when I explain it to my clients, I said there's exclusive and then there's inclusive. Exclusive, they find a reason to cut you, like 3.5 GPAs, 320 on the GRE,
Yeah.
community service. They look for reasons to cut you because they get so many different applicants. And
Right.
inclusive, they find reasons to keep you. So maybe
Mhm.
you didn't have a good overall GPA, but your major GPA was good. So we'll
Yeah.
take that, and we'll take GRE, and they have
Mhm.
experience. And it sounds like Texas Women's,
Mhm.
not even pretend to butcher the name, but it sounds like
No, that's it.
we're more on the inclusive side.
Yes, I would think so. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so when did the second so the second Lincoln,
Hmm.
right? He appeared
Lincoln.
when you moved to Tennessee.
That's right. He was very much planned. So we were both established in our jobs. We had a home. We knew we were going to stay here for a while. We knew the preschools in the area. So he was born in July of 18.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
what so you get now at this point, you sitting pretty good. You're a nurse practitioner, your husband's a dentist.
Hmm.
The money's pretty good. Got your kids.
Okay.
Hey, it's okay.
We also have student loans. You must remember,
Well,
student loans are no joke.
okay. And graduate student loans at that, because you're
Right. That's not, thankfully, though, because of the honors college, that's all we do have is dental school loans.
right.
We've already paid mine off. So we just have dental school loans, but it's hefty.
Yeah. Um, but you're in a good position as far
Mhm.
as your wealth, like education is. Well, do you plan on going back? Let me ask that.
So I am currently in school.
Okay, so now I think you're just a glutton for punishment. So what's going on with that?
So I graduated in May with my doctorate of nursing.
Oh, so you in the process now.
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, okay. And what?
Yeah.
Okay, so doctorate in nursing. What will you be able to do with that?
Okay, so that's a very common question I get a lot because you can be a nurse practitioner with a master's. That's what I'm doing now.
Right.
Um, it's the same thing to have a doctorate. A doctor of nursing practice is the practicing doctorate. So that's what I would have gotten to get to start with if I had gone to the University of Tennessee.
Okay.
It's just some schools just start there. They don't even have a master's program. You just get a doctorate. Some schools just have the master's. So basically, the only difference in the scope of practice in how I'm able to care for patients, nothing changes. But
Right.
um, your title changes, the letters after your name change, and in the medical community, that's something. Um, in not necessarily at my current employer, but at some juncture, it might relate to a higher salary.
Mhm.
But it also opens the door for me to be able to teach down the road because a lot of colleges and universities want to have instructors that have their doctorates. So,
How'd you say you didn't want to be a teacher?
well, not with little kids. I
Uh,
don't know.
okay.
Not just a math teacher, science teacher, but if it's something I really love, like I still wouldn't teach nurses. I don't think I would be a very good undergraduate nursing instructor.
Mhm.
But to be able to teach nurse practitioners what's important and what they need to know, I think I would like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're doing that for potential higher pay raise
Yeah.
and be able to teach a little bit. But you
Mhm.
but you said you could have. So for people who are planning in the high school and
Mhm.
college, if you have the opportunity to do the direct doctorate,
Mhm.
you recommend do that?
I think it depends on your circumstances because
Talk about it.
the bachelor's to doctorate straight, it's 3 years full time. So you don't get to have a job, you don't work as a nurse, you don't get that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I would have said, I don't care. I want to be a nurse practitioner. But looking back, I'm so glad it worked out the way it did because um, just the finances, first of all, but also the experiences and the relationships I've gained as a nurse are invaluable.
Right.
So I just am glad that I was able to have those and not just skip right over it just to get a doctorate.
Right. So it was that experience that that's what they tell us in the job. That experience is more important than education. But
Right.
in your case, it was very valuable for your development as a practitioner.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. And so what's next for you and your family as far as creating, I mean, your version of the good life? Because I mean, from somebody else's perspective, like she's gonna be a doctorate. She's gonna be a
uh,
doctorate nurse practitioner. He's a
I
doctor.
know.
They got 2 kids. What
Yeah,
more do you want?
I know. I think a lot of people look at people's success, but they don't really see what is behind it.
Correct.
There's a lot of hard work that goes on. A lot of it is not glamorous and cute. A lot of late nights up studying. I mean, the whole first year of our marriage, I literally told Logan, I feel like you're just my roommate. He's just studying all the time. But then when I started back to school, I was like, that's kind of what you have to do. I get it. um, so for now, I'm finishing my doctorate. I will defend my capstone thesis in April. So I'm finishing out writing that. And I actually picked a topic I'm pretty interested in. So that's good. I'm excited about that. I'll get that degree and graduate on Mother's Day weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Whether or not that's virtual, I don't know, but that's exciting. And then the idea is just to stay where we're at, to bloom where we're planted, because Logan loves his job and where he's at. And that's the same for me. And just to continue to grow in those areas and pay off our loans so that we can move into a different house that we're going to stay in a while, not move cities, just move into a different house.
Gotcha. Cool beans.
Yeah.
So tell us since you guys are health professionals, you guys have not stopped working since the pandemic started. And here we are almost a year later and the pandemic is still going on. So talk to us about what it's been like working on the front lines, essentially, during the pandemic.
So I would say that my husband, even though he is a dentist, has been more on the front lines than I have. And that's just the nature of my job, because I'm at a university health center for students and the students aren't there. Right. So I've been able to do a lot of telemedicine, but I don't feel like I've been put at risk of getting COVID at work as much as Logan. So his clinic did shut down in April and May. He went back to work on Memorial Day and he's been there since. And so it's just different screening protocol than he's used to. It's kind of slowed him down a little bit, but the volume is picking up. I would say as early as Halloween, it just started. It was like nothing ever changed, but patients are checking in over the phone. They're staying in their cars, and then the front desk staff will call them when it's time to sit in the waiting room so that there's not very many people in the waiting room at a time. And dentists always wear PPE. They always have to wear gloves and a mask. Right. So that hasn't really changed, but he does wear an N95 instead of just a regular surgical mask. But he's around people who cannot wear masks every day in their face. Definitely no social distancing involved with him and his patients. So the two dentists he worked with actually got it not long ago, and he, by the grace of the Lord, has not gotten it. And we both got our first vaccines last week. So
okay, now I gotta ask that question. So what was for the viewing audience who was on both sides? What did you guys get any information that we don't have as far as the vaccine or about what anything like that?
No, other than medical professionals are more likely to actually read the pamphlets of the vaccines and the research studies that went along to develop these vaccines. Right. I feel like we're more, we nerd out on stuff like that more than the general public. So Shelby County, Tennessee, where we're at, only received the Moderna vaccine. Okay. So that's the one that we received. And I wrote my undergraduate thesis on vaccine safety. So it's something I'm pretty passionate about, but the swiftness at which this came to the market shouldn't really scare anybody, because it's really effective, and millions of people have had it and it's safe. And I really think that this is gonna, once enough people get it, it's really gonna make a huge difference.
Well, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I gotta wait and see. I gotta wait and see people growing limbs. I gotta see people, catching the COVID or all that situation. So that's great insight for those who are, should I take it? Should I not? So
right. And then my last just pitch to that would be that 8 million people plus the research participants have all received this vaccine, and nobody has died from the vaccine. When in that same span of time, hundreds of thousands of people have died from COVID. So that's my argument for it. Just at its base, that's what I have to tell people.
Right. Now to be like 100% like safe, do you have to receive both?
Yes.
Okay.
So at least on the Moderna one, they're saying that you're about 60% protected against it after your first dose, about a week or two after your first dose. But then that second dose just really solidifies it and makes it the full 95% that was demonstrated in the research.
Okay. So first dose, you're good, but not 100%.
Not totally. Yeah.
Clinical trials go, but
Right.
all right. Well, cool. So as take us home, like give the people who are, aspiring nurses, aspiring health professionals, what like some advice that you would give to them?
I would just say to be confident in yourself, be confident in your abilities, and remember why you want to do this. I think for me, having a big reason why was very helpful throughout the whole thing. And there could be more than one reason. There could be lots of reasons why you want to do a certain thing, but it was just always a goal of mine to do this so that I'm, you know, free financially. I can provide for my family, but I can do it while fulfilling myself and other people. So a lot of people along the way will say, this is so hard. This is the hardest semester yet. I don't know if you can do it. Oh, if you didn't do good in this class, you're not going to do well in this one. And it's like, well, they don't know you though. So it does take hard work and it does take a lot of time and effort, but nothing that's worth having comes easy. So I would just say, keep at it. You can do it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Chelsea. For those of y'all watching this, comment your favorite part, smash that like button, like all the YouTubers say. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe for the weekly podcast. Like I said, it comes out every single Thursday. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review so that we can spread this message and let other people learn more about being a nurse, more about being an educator, and all the future people that I have coming on the podcast in the coming weeks. But you know how we do. We're coming to you every single Thursday, helping you create your version of the good life. Until then, we'll see you next week.